Good morning, everyone. My name's Declan. I'm an alcoholic.
Declan.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm very grateful to be up here back at the house on the hill. Driving up this driveway and on the road on Dududu Road, the memories just came flooding back to me. The good and the bad, more good than bad, actually. A very grateful member of this fellowship, of our sister fellowship, because if it wasn't for this program and the 12 steps, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys today. No way in hell. I want to express gratitude to my higher power, to my parents, to Caleb and Natalie for putting me up this weekend. And most of all, I want to say thank you to the House on the Hill because this place gave me my life back. I was very apprehensive about coming at first, but it's probably the best decision I ever made in my life. It's changed my life purely for the better. I guess it started at the beginning. I was born on the 29th of December, 1987 in a little town called Petersburg up in the Limpopo province, and I was born into a very caring, loving family. I didn't want for much. I wasn't a spoiled little brat, but it was clear to me that I was born an alcoholic. My temper tantrums, the way I was, the manipulation, the lies, everything started from a very young age. When I was 3, I moved down to Joburg, and I still reside there today. I always felt there was something different inside of me. I didn't feel like any other kid. I always felt very isolated. And I had this big hole inside of me that I just couldn't fill no matter what. And during my primary school years, I did a lot of what we would say social butterflying. I went from group to group putting on masks. Just depending on who I wanted to be on any specific day, I would go and put on that mask. Because I didn't know who I was. I was completely lost. My saving grace for me in primary school was sport. My main sport was cricket, and that was a place I could be free, I could express myself, and I could be who I thought I was. And that helped me a lot. I mean, I achieved a lot in my primary school days doing cricket, and academics were never really much for me. School was a jewel. I wasn't really there for marks. I was bullied, believe it or not. I was pushed around, I was shoved around, I was made to feel small. And that just increased my loneliness. It just basically separated me from everybody else. And I just wasn't right. Leaving primary school and going into high school, I was very fearful. I had this massive fear inside of me that now I was going to this other school. I was now going to be put with all these different people, and I could basically wipe the slate clean. Which I did, but the masks were still there. I made lots of acquaintances. I never had really any close friends. I never allowed people close to me to get to know who I really was. I also threw myself into sports in high school, mainly cricket and rugby. Excelled at both of those. And sport for me has always been my happy place. To this day, the golf course is my happy place. That's where I find solace. That's where I find peace. In high school, I met a girl, and she was my high school sweetheart up until I left matric. And it was basically her and sports. I didn't think of anything else. I didn't care about anything else. It was just me. Now, my story starts off, I did not pick up alcohol first. I went to drugs first. When I was 13 years old, I had my first hit of my drug of choice, and it was just freeing. I could be me. I could have no stresses in my life. I didn't worry about anything. I didn't care about anything. It was just me and my drug of choice. I found alcohol about a year later, and then I thought, sweet, this is going to be lekker. Now I can mix drugs and alcohol, no problems. And it started off recreationally, using every once in a while, to going into every weekend, to going to 2-3 times a week. And it was just filling that void that was inside of me that I so desperately wanted to fill. I had all this pain from my past that I was trying to suppress and trying to hide. And drugs and alcohol did that for me. It was a very painful experience going through my high school years, not really having much of a relationship with my father. Me and him clashed quite a bit. Very similar personalities, so whenever he came at me, I came back at him just as hard. I didn't stand for none of that bullshit from him. I guess his drinking also played a bit of a role in my life, but my father's not an alcoholic. It skipped a generation, thank God, and then hit me. And when I left high school, I did what any normal teenager would think of doing, and that's having a gap year. I didn't accomplish much in that gap year. I basically drank and used for the better part of 9 months. I thought I had a gift for being a bartender, so I decided to study to become a mixologist. That worked out for a while until I got sick and tired of that. And the pattern in my life is when something doesn't go Declan's way, he runs. It's typical. After that year, I was still nowhere in life. I was very lost. I was very confused. I didn't really know what to do with my life. I didn't want people around me. I couldn't stand people around me. I just wanted to be on my own and left to my own device. After that, I decided now it's time to study and knuckle down and try to get some sort of degree behind my name. I went to an institution and I wanted to study journalism. And I got mixed up with the wrong crowd, but I later turned out that I was the wrong crowd. I was the one that was bringing the drugs and the alcohol onto the premises. I was the one bunking. I was the one drinking. None of them, it was just me. I blamed everybody else except myself. I got caught out in a lie, made up this huge nonsense story, and I was asked to leave. So I left. Once again, Declan does a runner. I then putted around for another year with my parents, stealing off them, taking their money to supply my using. By this point, my using and my drinking had gotten to a point where it was every second day or so. I didn't think of myself as an addict back then, but God had other plans for me. After that year, I decided, no, enough is enough now. I need to find a job. And my father offered me a position at his company, and I grabbed it with both arms because I knew now I could have money to go and buy alcohol and drugs. I took that opportunity and I basically pissed it up against the wall. I took advantage. I felt entitled. I didn't really care much for my coworkers. It was all just about Declan and his next fix or his next drink. I was caught out at his company once again for bringing drugs into the property, and once again disciplined and asked to leave. Didn't really have a problem with that because I didn't really like working for him anyway. I then decided it was time to start giving back in my own selfish way, and I went back to my old high school and I started coaching cricket. And that for me was kind of a godsend because I was given a team and I took them from nowhere and I took them somewhere. And that made me feel good. Even though I was completely irresponsible, using while I was coaching, using with some of my players, it was just really irresponsible behavior. And after that bombed out, as it was bound to, I decided it was time to study again. I enrolled at another institution, and this time I was determined to get something behind my name. I was not going to let everybody see what a failure I was becoming. I managed to go through 2 years of varsity, and I got my degree. And what made me think about whether or not I was an alcoholic was I could still maintain high marks. I could still maintain my social aspect of life. I could still maintain family relationships, so to speak. And alcohol and drugs did not interfere with that. I managed the distinctions. I managed to finish second in my class. And I was just really confused as to why now am I an alcoholic. It just didn't make sense to me. But looking back now, it was all there. I mean, you can get what they call a functioning alcoholic, which I don't believe much in. So after that, I looked for a job and I couldn't find one. And once again, fell back into the old pattern, living off mom and dad, stealing their money, living rent-free, eating their food, drinking their coffee, and just basically being a freeloader. I went through years of such pain and fear of what I was becoming that my self-worth was at an all-time low. I was really distraught. I was really, really in a lot of pain, and I didn't know what to do. And that's when I think this disease actually took hold of me, and it actually grabbed me with both hands and said, "I've got you now." And that's when it started to progress to the point of where I came into the house on the hill. My breaking point for me was not material. I didn't lose material things. I didn't lose the car, the house, the family. What I'd lost was everything inside of me. I'd lost everything inside of me. I just did not want to live on this planet anymore. I was not interested at all. My rock bottom came. I was laying on my bed in tears, completely conceding defeat and surrendering, saying to my higher power, "God, please take me off this planet or give me a sign." And later that night I was talking to Caleb. That's how my higher power works in my life. He doesn't give me things direct. Sort of like in a roundabout way, he'll show me what to do. A couple of days later, before I came into treatment, I'd experienced quite a bit more pain. I hadn't used, but the pain was still there, and I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And I'd hit another sort of semi-rock bottom. I was contemplating suicide. I had the pills in my hand, and I was sitting there on the edge of my bed, and I was just rocking back and forth, thinking to myself, "Just get off this planet, man. You don't want to be here anymore. There's nothing on this earth for you. You're a failure. You're a complete waste of oxygen. Just take these pills, end your life, and get the hell out of here." And that seemed like a really good option at the time. If it wasn't for my higher power intervening again in the form of my best friend phoning me the second I had the pills almost here, yeah, it was just incredible. I answered the phone and he knew instantly what was wrong. He said to me, "My boy, what's wrong?" I said to him, "Listen, dude, I'm out. I'm clocking out. I've had enough of this. I want out." And he said to me something that I'll never forget. He said to me, "Dex, you're one of the strongest people I know. You're meant to be on this earth for a reason. Don't even think about it. You're going to disappoint your family. You're going to hurt your parents. You're going to hurt your family. You're going to hurt your friends." And everything started rocking back and forth in my head. So I promptly took those pills, threw them in the toilet, went to my mother and said, "Listen, call Caleb, tell him I'm coming on Saturday. I need to change my life, and I need to change my life now because I'm sick and tired of the shit that I've been in." Now, on the plane ride here, my alcoholic sitting on one shoulder and then the normal sitting on the other shoulder, thinking, "You're going down to a place where you've got friends, you've got family. Why don't you just go for a 3-month holiday? No one will know." But inside, I knew myself that I had to do this, and I didn't want to do it for anybody else. I wanted to do it for me. I arrived at the airport, and I was met by my buddy and a fellow employee of this facility, and they didn't have a picture of me. I don't know if Caleb showed them a picture of me or not, but they saw me and they said, "You, come here." They knew. I think it was written on my face. And I got in the car and I got on the road on the way here, and on the way up here, and I was thinking to myself, where the hell are these guys taking me? Like, it's in the middle of damn nowhere, in the sugarcane fields in Dududu of all places. Like, I mean, what the hell? I've never even heard of Dududu. Driving up this driveway, I knew then that there was no turning back. Little did I know, 2.5 weeks later, I would have a bit of a change of heart. When I came into this house on the hill, my willingness stayed at the door. Declan walked in, but the willingness stayed at the door. I was ready to give up everything else. I just wasn't prepared to give up some of those old behaviors and those old things. I just was not prepared. I remember Caleb saying to me, "If you haven't done your step one, if you're not sitting in the corner crying like a little girl after your step one, you haven't done it properly." And I was broken after my step one, completely shattered. And that's when my willingness walked into this facility with me. About a week later, it was just before we were about to go to the meeting down the road in Scottsboro. I walked into the office, and this is my insanity. I walked in and I said to Caleb, "Listen, man, I got this. I got this wax. This is my insanity talking now. I can do this. No, man, I'll email you my steps. I can do this on the outside." And he turned to me and he raised that famous eyebrow of his, and he said to me, "I don't give a shit what you say, Declan. You're staying here 3 months." I ummed and I ahed and I threw a little bit of a hissy fit. And he said to me, once you've completed your 3 months here in Cedars, we'll laugh about this. And we did. 3 months later, we were sitting and we actually laughed about it. That's the insanity that I was dealing with at that present moment in time. My journey up here at the house on the hill was fairly good. I mean, I didn't really have much of a bad time up here. I didn't have a problem with step 2 or 3 because I'd already had a higher power in place. I was comfortable with God. That's my higher power. You guys may have a different one. Him and I formed this closer bond, my higher power and I, throughout the steps. And when I got to step 4, I was a little bit blocked. I hadn't quite connected. And some of the fellows I see in the room today that were with me, they were in moods after their step 4. And I couldn't figure out why. And it took a little episode on a Friday night to make me all connect with what I'd done. And I was completely shattered. And that's where I started to grow and move in my recovery. Step 4 and 5 for me were a big turning point. 6 and 7, I've heard them say before in the rooms that 6 and 7 separate the men from the boys and the ladies from the girls from the ladies. And that's a big one for me. Step 6 and 7 were coming to terms with my character defects. I'm lazy, I'm dishonest, I'm selfish, I'm fearful. But I knew I had the spiritual principles to counteract those character defects. Humbly ask God to remove them. He's still removing them to this day because I still feel myself feeling those character defects from time to time. The biggest one I was struggling with was arrogance. People around me could see it, but I just couldn't see it. But now I know on a daily basis I have to practice humility. For me, that's the biggest thing for me. When I left the house on the hill, I was told, meetings. Find a home group, do service, do step work, get involved, get a sponsor. I did all of those things. I did exactly as I was told. And looking back now, doing exactly what I was told has put me in this seat chair with you guys today. I followed suggestion. I listened to everything that anybody had to say to me who had more experience than me in the rooms. I definitely listened because I was willing. I knew I have a disease. I knew that it can catch me up at any time. And if I let my guard down, the silly alcoholic bugger sitting on my shoulder is going to catch me and he's going to bring me down. And I don't want that. I don't want to go back to the life that I was living. You're good on time. Cool. This past year for me in recovery it's been interesting. The promises, as they say, will be fulfilled if you work for them. I've worked for them, and some of them are starting to materialize in my life now. I've got relationships back that I didn't think were possible. I've got respect and love back from my family. I've got trust for the first time in my life from my family. They actually can trust me with things. And that's the beauty of this program and the beauty of the steps is if you work these steps to the best of your ability, you ask, you listen, you do as you're told, you follow suggestion, you will get there. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And if you're prepared to do what it takes in this program and you're prepared to do the long haul, it will work for you. I mean, this past year for me, I've gone through ups and downs. I've had breakups. I've lost friends. I've experienced death, but not one of them has led me to use. Not once. And I'm grateful for that, because the promises say that we will relieve you of your alcoholism, and God has done that for me. I don't feel the need to drink. I don't feel the need to use. I don't get the compulsions or the obsessions or the cravings. I don't get those things anymore. For me, the biggest gift that I've received so far in my recovery is my life. For me, the biggest thing I can say, my life is now back to where I think it needs to be, and that's carrying the message to the addict and the alcoholic who still suffers. I've been given the gift of being able to study again, and I'm now studying addiction counseling. I mean, I thought I'd taken for so many years of my life. The least I can do is give back. And giving back for me is the greatest gift, because now I can go and speak to another alcoholic, I can go speak to another addict, and I can carry that message. Whether it sinks in now or it sinks in a couple of weeks' time, Doesn't matter for me as long as I'm carrying the message. And that means a lot to me. I've got sponsees now that look up to me. They ask me for guidance, whereas I used to come to Caleb almost on a daily basis asking him for help because I was completely shattered. And now I've got guys that depend on me for a similar thing. And that's the great thing about this program. I owe it my life. I really do. I'm busy doing my second round of steps because, believe it or not, the steps don't stop when you get out there. You have to carry on. I'm on my second round now, and it's now opening up new doors and new avenues for me. I'm now doing things in a whole new different line. I'm involved in a sponsorship family up in Joburg where all we do is carry the message. That's our primary purpose, is to carry the message. And for us, it's a great thing to see people come into these rooms broken, lost, confused, and them get to a point where you can actually see the brightness in their eyes. You can actually see them smile. And it's not purely because of us, it's because of this program. It's the steps. It's living a spiritual way of life. It's having a higher power. It's having a sponsor. It's all the basic things that the founder of this book actually says. If you do these things, they will materialize, and the best thing about it is that it's free. It doesn't cost a cent. All it asks is that you try. And that's all I ask of people when I speak to them, is I ask them to try. That's the least they can do. So for me, being an alcoholic is something I was ashamed of at the beginning. I was very shy around it. I didn't want to be known as an alcoholic or an addict. But thanks to my father spreading the word around the whole of bloody Joburg, they all now know that I'm an addict. And I'm not ashamed of that. People don't tiptoe around me anymore. They hand me my reality on a daily basis. They tell me the truth. I live life on life's terms, and I'm able to accept what people say to me. I'm able to accept things for what they are. I don't have to get upset. If I get upset, I'm upset for maybe 5 minutes, and then I'm cool after that. Because it's like if I get angry, it's like me taking the poison and expecting you guys to die. It's absolutely pointless. So why get angry? Why get upset? There's just no point about it. The biggest thing I found recently in the past couple of months is letting go. Letting go of old behavior, letting go of just things that I have no control over. I can only control today, this moment. I've heard a good saying that goes, if you're living 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, you're pissing all over the present. And for me, that's exactly how I live my life. I try to live my life in the moment as much as I can. Because for me, if I'm not living in the moment, that anxiety, that fear sets in. And then my addict and my alcoholic start going and they're having arguments in my head. And I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. I've experienced the taste of this program, and it's what has been promised to me, the dreams beyond my wildest, life beyond my wildest dreams. I cannot express my gratitude towards this program, towards the House on the Hill, towards Caleb, towards my higher power, and towards the steps. I can't ask for anything more than I have right now, because I'm content with what I have right now. Material things don't matter to me anymore. What matters to me is my sobriety and carrying the message to the addict and alcoholic who still suffers. My name's Declan. Thank you for letting me share.